Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Today we are leading to the second tutorial of this immunology course, week two. So, let's start. Like the first question for the tutorial one is T cell mediates. Option A is humoral immunity. Option B is non-specific defense. Option C is cell mediated immunity, and option D is none of this. Anyone?
Cell mediated immunity.
Option C, ma'am.
Okay, so two of you are saying option C. Anyone else? Okay, let's see the right answer for this question. You are right, cell mediated immunity is the right answer. So, what is this cell mediated immunities? So, this type of immunity mostly because we know that T cells they don't involve any antibodies because antibody formation and all this will involve like B cells include this antibodies and all because plasma cell they form the B cells and B cells form this antibodies. So this type of immunities mediates humoral immunity? No, because B cells mediates the humoral immunity. So because these type of immune response do not involve these antibodies, so that's why we call it as cell-mediated immunity. Instead, they involve the activation of T cells, which directly attack the infected cells, cancer cells, or any foreign tissues. So we know that how many types of T cells are there? Three T cells are present, right? Okay. So h- three T three types of T cells are there. One is this helper T cells, and then cytotoxic T cells, and the regulatory T cells. So, what is this helper T cells? They normally activates the other immune cells. And cytotoxic T cells normally what they do is they directly kill this infected cells or any abnormal cell. And regulatory T cells, as the name suggests, it regulates it help in controlling the immune responses so that they can't like hyperactivate or so that they will start so they will not start attacking their own cells. So that's why they regulate the function of these T cells, these regulatory T cells. So, so this is the history about how this humoral immunity and this cellular immunity discovery happened. So in the late 19th century, this Hippocratic tradition medicine system they imagined and they divided these immunity into the two types. One is this humoral immunity and another this cellular immunity. So humoral, the protective function of immunization could be found in humoral, that is cell-free body or serum. And another one is the cellular immunity in which the protective function associated with the cells. So in case of cellular immunity, the cell normally the cell help in the immunization function, so that's why we called it as cellular immunity. But in case of humoral, here the immunization found in the humoral, that is the body fluid or the serum. So we know that in case of cellular immunity, these CD4 cells, or we call it as helper T cells, they protect against the pathogens. And after that, these naive T cells, which were the immature, these T cells, when they encountered the antigen, they converted into the activated T cells. So once these naive T cells they encounter with any pathogen or foreign material, they converted into the mature T cells or activated T cells. And here APCs, which are the APCs like which present the antigens to the cells, we called it as APCs or antigen presenting cells, and it includes the macrophages, dendritic cells, and the B cells. So what they do is this APCs, macrophages, and all, they load these antigenic peptides into the MHC complex, MHC, like major histocompatibility complex, and then they present this peptide to the T cell. See, like we found this antigen. So they showcase those antigen to the T cells. So the most important of these APCs, the very important APCs, antigen presenting cells, which normally involve also the vaccine, we know that like it um, it protect against like many disease. Nowadays we have in like variety of disease we have this vaccine, right? So normally in vaccination also these dendritic cells play a very important role. So these dendritic cells are the highly specialized cells. They ingest and the present the antigens to different cells, and how they do is first this cytotoxic, and after that these T cells converted into the activate T cells, and normally by the three steps it kill the pathogen. The first step is, so the first step for this is the three main step, which also like in your examination it can come. Like first step is this cytotoxic T cells. They kill the infected target cells by the apoptosis without using cytokines. Second, this T helper cells, normally they function to activate the macrophages, and this Th2, that the helper second two cells, they normally what they do is they stimulate the B cells so that they can produce the antibody. So in this way, this cell mediated and humoral immunity, they interact with each other and activate this B cells also. So here we can see that these are the T cells mobilized, and they are encountered with the dendritic C cells, and how this activation helps. Some T cells also activate the B cells so that they can produce the antibodies, and these are the MHC. So these are the APCs. So they showcase this antigen to this T cells, and after the processing of this antigen, these engulfment will start and they'll kill that. So here different types, it's showing that virus infected cells also, and those which help in the when we infect with the viruses, that time a special kind of T cells play a role, and we called it as cytotoxic T cells. And here normal the T helper cells, and also the T helper second cells, they activate the B cells also so that they can produce the antibodies, and collectively they kill those antigens, or they remove that foreign particles from our body, right? Any doubt? Okay, so the second question is the first acting cells of the immune system are: option A is B cells, option B is T cells, option C is neutrophils, and option D is NK cells.
Option C, ma'am.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else want to answer for this question? Okay, then you tell me what are this neutrophil?
It is a white blood cell which is abundant type of granulocytes.
Yeah, right. So we can distinguish this neutrophil from other cells. Can we? How many lobes are there present in case of neutrophil?
Yes, ma'am. Neutrophil can be distinguished from other cells by their nucleus because it is multi-lobe. It has like typically 3 to 5 lobes.
Yeah, right. So it have this three lobe structure, and we can distinguish it. We can distinguish all the granulocytes with the help of this eosin basic acidic basic dye, right? So because of the presence of this three lobe structure, right? Good. So let's see.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so let's see the right answer for this question. You are right. Neutrophils are the first acting cells of the immune system. Whenever the first, like the antigen present, the first cells of the immune system which start acting, and like the first cells, that is this neutrophil. And you are right, it's a kind of white blood cells, and they are a part of the innate immune system which provide the first line of defense. And they are very rapid responders. They quickly recruit to the site of infection whenever is there any infection or any injury. These neutrophil, the first cell which come to that site is this neutrophil. And many time in the question, people ask like what the very first cells which act during the site of infection or injury is this neutrophil. So the main role is engulf and destroy the pathogen through a process called phagocytosis. So these neutrophils, they form this phagosomes, and they phagocyte through the process of phagocytosis, they engulf that bacteria and they destroy that bacteria. Also, the other thing, they also release some kind of enzymes and the signaling molecules, so that they can recruit the other immune cells also. So how this neutrophil defend the body? The first step is, this neutrophil do is they detect and move to the infection sites. So here this is the man. So like uh, any injury part is there. So whenever there is any injury, so these pathogen or maybe the pathogen enters through the body. What happened, the first step is the damaged cells, they release some kind of chemical signal, right? Then the first cells, this neutrophil, they detect these signals and they start moving. Here this neutrophils, they start moving toward the site of this infection, right? And the movement, when they move towards these chemicals, these movement we called as chemotaxis. As the name also suggests, chemo means chemical, taxis means towards the chemicals. So because they are moving toward this chemical signals, so that's why we call this process as chemotaxis. This moment we called it as chemotaxis. So the very first step is the detection of this infection sites, and they move towards this infection site, and we called it as chemotaxis. And then what next step is, then they will engulf the pathogen, and we call this process as phagocytosis. Once these neutrophils reach this uh, injury sites, what they do is they surround and invade this microbe, and this process we called it as phagocytosis. And once these cells phagocytose this microbe, they trap it inside the vesicle. And after that, the third step will come, that is killing the microbe, because now it's inside the cells, right? So this is the pathogen and this is the neutrophil. Now it's inside the neutrophils. So next step is they release some kind of enzyme or some toxic substance so that these chemical will destroy this microbe, right? After that, they also release the net like structure. Neutrophil also release some web like structure which is made up of this DNA and enzymes, so that they can trap the multiple microbes outside the cells. If there are other antigens also, they will trap those all the pathogens outside the outside their like from the surroundings, from their surroundings, right? And the last step is after finding the infection. Now they can't survive, right? Otherwise, if they'll start acting on the normal cells also, then it may cause the trouble to that. So that's why now their job is done. So the next step is they self destruct also, and we called it as apoptosis. Apoptosis is a programmed cell death. So once their job is done, they kill themselves, right? And this process we called it as self destructions. And after fighting the infection, this neutrophils die. So in this way, this neutrophil defend our body from the injury or from any infection, right? So here how this neutrophil generation is there, and how this differentiation of neutrophil is there. So this is the basically out of your syllabus. You can go through like if you want. And some here in this figure also I put that how we can distinguish this immature neutrophil to the mature neutrophil. Based, the first step is based on their marker. Immature and mature neutrophil have the different markers also. This in case of immature, this ring, as we know that we can distinguish all the granulocytes through their nucleus structures or through eosin basic dye staining, so that we can see that how their nucleus look like. Also, we can distinguish this immature neutrophil from the mature neutrophils on the basis of nucleus also. But how? Because in case of immature, this ring-shaped nucleus is there, and in case of mature, this multi-lobed or normally three-lobed structures is there. So that's all about the neutrophil. And the next question is PAMP. As in the earlier lecture also we discussed about this PAM, that is the pathogen associated molecular pattern. So this PAM are recognized by option A is PRRs, option B is PRPS, option C is PRAS, and option D is RRS.
Option A, ma'am.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else want to answer for this question? Okay, then tell me what is PAM? Pathogen associated molecular patterns. What is this PAM? In the last class, I explained to you guys what is PAM.
It is a small molecular structure which is conserved and unique to pathogens but not found in host cells.
Very good, right? Okay, so you were right. PR are the right answer. That is, pattern recognition receptors. So these PAM molecules are recognized by this PRRS, and there are different kind of PRR like toll-like receptor 2, toll-like receptor 5, different rig-like receptors are there. Basically, we divide it into the three types, right? So PAM, that these are the molecular structures, and normally they are found on the pathogen, as the name also suggests. The pathogen associated, like the molecular patterns which associate with the pathogens, like bacteria, virus, but they are not present on human cells. They are present on the pathogen only. That's why the term pathogen associated. And here the examples, like what example of this PAMP is like LPS. The bacteria walls, we know that bacteria wall is made up of peptidoglycan and lipopolysaccharides. So the lipopolysaccharide on bacteria, they can also act as a PAMP. Peptidoglycan on bacterial cell walls, they can also be the part of this PAMP. And the viral RNA, so these all are the example of this PAMP. So how these PAMP are recognized? They are recognized by the receptors present on the cells, that is pattern recognition receptors. And these receptors normally they present on the immune cells like macrophages, dendritic cells, and the neutrophils. These PRR, these receptor, what they do is these receptor will detect the PAMP molecules, like this is the bacteria. So these bacteria have these structures. So these receptor detect this PAMP, and then they what they do is they trigger an immune response. So after that they trigger this immune response. And here the type of PRR includes the basically the three common, like the most commonly receptors are the toll like receptors, and in toll also like 12 different receptors are there. And second is this node like receptors, and the third is rig1 like receptors. So when this PRR detects this PAM molecule, they activate the immune cells, and after that they trigger the inflammatory response and then alert this adaptive immune system. So the next question is, in a macrophage, phagosome and lysosome is fused, and once these two fused, they form this phagolysosome. So what happens after that? Once this phagolysosome mate by this phagosome and lysosome fusion, what happens after that? Option A is it degrade and process the peptides, and the processed peptides are displayed on the surface. And option B is it remains intact inside the cell. Option C is it is released as it is from the cell. And option D is all of the above.
Option A, ma'am.
Okay, option E. Anyone else?
Ma'am, it is option A.
Okay. Two of you are saying option A. Anyone else want to answer for this question?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Ma'am, I have some questions about this session. I have joined today only. I don't know what to gather from here. Should I ask after the session or now?
You can ask after the session also.
Okay, thank you.
Hmm. Okay, then tell me what is lysosome. I think everyone knows. Who want to answer for this? What is lysosome?
It is
Ma'am,
a
it is the cell
membrane-bound
which is called
organelle
like the
found in
suicidal
animal
bag of the
cells.
cell. It bursts itself to disrupt all the harmful microbes, and it is also called something as suicidal bag of the cell.
Right? Anyone else?
It is an membrane-bound organelle which is found in animal cells, often called the cell's digestive system.
It carry out the waste from the cell outside.
Hmm. Right. So all of you are right. Does lysosome have any membrane? Is this a membrane bound?
Ma'am, it's a single membrane.
Yeah, right. And what is phagosome?
Ma'am, it is a
It
cell
is a
which engulf
membrane-bound
all
vesicle
the
formed inside
bad
the cell
microbes.
when it engulfs a particle like bacteria, dead cells, or foreign material.
Right. Good. So you know about this phagosome and lysosome. So they fuse this lysosome and phagosome in a macrophage and they form this phagolysosome. So after that what will happen is, so you guys are right that it degraded and it processed that peptides on their surface so that other cells can activate after that. So why this is important? So these macrophage they function in a very simple step. First is phagocytosis. So this is macrophage and this is pathogen. So what they do is, the first step is these macrophage they engulf this bacteria or engulf this pathogen and they form a bubble like structures in which inside this bacteria is present, and this is the whole macrophage structure, and now we call this is the phagosome. So this is the phagosome, right? After that these phagosome they fuse with the lysosome also. Why lysosome? Because you people explain now, because they have this digestive enzymes, they have hyaluronic acids and other acidic enzyme, right? Because they have to break it down also, this pathogen they need enzymes also. So some of the enzyme which are not present with this macrophages, this lysosome will help. And we know that lysosome also have this acidic pH, where this digestive enzyme they will not activate inside the lysosome only. Once the pH will change, then they will activate and they'll start acting on this on this bacteria, right? So that they can break it down and they can remove from our body. So the next step is these phagosome they fused with this lysosome, because this lysosome contains this digestive enzyme. And now the fused structure of these two we called it as phagolysosome. After this, inside this phagolysosome, now this pathogen will break down into the pieces, into the small peptide fragments. Why small? Because it will they will convert this bacteria into different peptides, right? Because only one bacteria is not there, other bacteria also must be there, and they have to activate other cells also, other like T cells or maybe the B cells. If these T cells will not enough, they have to activate the B cells also. That's why they convert this pathogen into the small peptide, so they can showcase this peptide to the other cells like T cells. And then now that these T cells when encounter these processed antigens, they will convert into the activated T cells, naive to activated T cells. And then now the T cells will release the cytokines, chemokines, and they'll kill the this bacteria. If even if this is not enough, what they do is the another kind of T cell, that is T helper to Th2 cells, they'll activate the B cells, and the B cells also release the antibody so that they can kill this pathogens, right? So in this way they work. So some of the peptides are then attached to the MHC class 2 molecules. We know that MHC2 is mostly present on what? On the APCs, right? And on the normal cells, MHC1 will be present. So these are the markers, right? So these some of the antigen, that is peptides, they attach to this MHC class 2 molecules, and through the MHC class 2 only these will interact with the T cells, right? So these MHC antigen complex then transport to the cell surface of the macrophage. Why? Because inside, if it is present, then it will not activate the T cells. That's why it have to come outside, right? And comes on this cell surface, so that these T cells will convert themselves into the activated T cells, right? So that's why these will come to the cell surface of the macrophage. In this way, the immune system shows this antigen to the helper T cells, and then which triggers a very specific immune response to that particular antigen only, right? So these are the microbes. So these are the APCs. They engulf and they form this phagosome. And here this lysosome, because they have these digestive enzymes, we need the digestive enzymes also, so that they can break down into the pieces. So these phagosome and the lysosome will fuse and they form this phagolysosome like structures. After that, they break down this microbe into the pieces, into the peptides, and we call this partially digested microbe. And here the residual body is there, and these come to the surface of this APCs, right? And here these APCs will, here the T cells will come and they interact with this MHC2 molecules, and these naive T cells converted into the activated T cells. Like that, here we can see that this is the MHC2 molecule with the peptides. They come on the surface. Antigens from this digested bacteria are presented with MHC2 on the surface, right? So that they can start an immune response and kill all the antigens or all the bacteria present inside the body. So in this way, it plays a role. So moving to the next question, as the dendritic cells and macrophages migrate to the lymph node, they now interact with option A is mature B cell and T cells. Option B is naive B cells and the T cells. Option C is APCs and option D is NK cells.
Option B, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else who want to answer for this question? Okay, then let's see. You are right. Option B is the right answer. That is naive B and T cells. Because when this dendritic cells and these macrophages they encounter the pathogen, they engulf, as we discussed earlier, and they display the pieces using the MHC, and after that they migrate to the lymph node. And we know that lymph node are the very central site for activating the adaptive immunity, because in the lymph node only these B and T cells are present, naive T and B cells. Here they present this antigen to the naive B cells, so that they can convert into the mature B cells, and these naive T cells convert into the mature T cells. Once they encounter, they, because these naive B and T cells they wait in the lymph node only. Once they will convert these naive B cells and T cells convert into the activated, then they will come out, and they will they will start proliferating and they will differentiate into the effector cells also. Some, and some convert into the T memory cells also. So if again that antigen will come, they'll kill that antigen, right? So here, how this happen is, T cell dependent and one is this T cell independent pathway. How this work is, these dendritic cells, these are the like mature dendritic cells. So they reach to the lymph node and they convert these naive CD4 cells into the activated cells. Here the three signal molecule plays a very important role. The first interaction during the conversion of this like for this activation of this naive T cells into the activated T cell is the first, they, this MHC2 molecule which have this processed antigen, they interact with the TCR receptors, T cell receptors. So the first thing is activation of this TCR, or like their interaction, TCR and PMHC2 molecules. And then another second is, then what they happen once this interaction will happen, then the CD80 of this naive T helper cells act, interact with the CD86. So CD80 and CD86, these co-stimulatory, like this interaction is important, and after that it will release the cytokine and it will bind and this co-stimulation happen. So these three steps are very important to convert this naive T cells into this activated T cells, right? So these all happen inside the lymph node only, because they are waiting in the lymph node that this antigen will come. The antigen, how it will come? Through this mature disease dendritic cells. So because they only have this antigen, so they are waiting there in the lymph node and they convert this T naive T cells into the activated T cells. Now once this activation of T cells happen, they, here they will not stop if the infection is very wide and very, like, they can't remove. So what they do is, next they convert this naive B cells into the activated B cells. These also happen with the MHC2 and this receptors function, and they convert this naive B cells into the activation so that they can produce the antibodies. And also this, once they activate this naive B cells, they also activate the plasma cells so that they can make the memory B cells, which have the memory that if again that same antigen will come, these memory B cells have the memory, and they, before the infection, they'll kill that pathogen. And next also they produce this monoclonal antibodies against that particular antigen only, right? So this is the way that the immune system will work, how the humoral and the cell mediated immunity collectively will work and kill the, like, pathogen or any bacteria, debris, any foreign materials which try to come into our body and cause any like injury or any disease. So the next, coming to the next question, that is CAM, that is the cell adhesion molecules include, option A is mucin, option B is selectin, option C is integrin, and option D is all of the above.
Option B, ma'am.
B. Okay.
No, ma'am, D, D.
Okay, D. Sorry. Anyone else? Anyone else who want to answer for this question?
Ma'am, it's all of the above.
Okay. What are the cell addition molecule? Anyone know? Have you heard about the cell addition? What is cell addition?
No, ma'am, first time hearing.
Okay.
Ma'am, it can be the molecules which can help the cells to get attached to the neighboring cells.
Yes, neighboring cells or to the substrate also, to the surface also. So cell
Okay.
adhesion means attachment. So they help the cell interaction also, like they can interact with the cells, or they can provide the attachment to the surface. So some molecules which help in the cell adhesion we call the cell adhesion molecules, right? So they are mostly proteins that normally present on the surface cells, right? So you people are right that the option D is the right answer, that is all of the above. So first, what are these cell adhesion molecules? These are the proteins, right? And they normally present on the surface of the cells. So what they do is cell adhesion or attachment. So we know that cell can't like move here, so they will attach to this surface. Through the they can be the cell attachment, or there can be the cell matrix attachment, right? So why how this attachment happens? So some proteins are there which present on the surface of these cells, this surface of the cells. So they help this attachment of the cells to the ECM, that is extracellular matrix, or here also this protein will help in the attachment of this cells, right? So they play a very crucial role in immune system also. How? Because immune cells also move to the site of infection, right? If these cells are attached to this surface only, so how they'll move? So they have to detach from the surface, right? And when there is a detachment of these cells from this surface, we call this step is extravasation, right? So this is the very important step for the immune cells so that they can move to the site of infection. So because of the regulation of this molecule, whether they are down regulating in the in any cells, or there is a upregulation of this molecule, that will decide whether these cells are like these molecules are providing the attachment or they help in the detachment, right? So the major families which include this CAM is the first is mucin. So they are very highly glycosylated proteins, and they act as a ligand for this selectins, and they slow down or tether the white blood cells to the blood vessels during the inflammation. And the next is selectin. They are carbohydrate binding proteins, and normally these selectins found on the endothelial cells and the leukocytes, and they mediate the initial weak binding of the leukocytes along these vessels. And the last is integrin. Integrins are these transmembrane receptors. Transmembrane, that is this is the plasma membrane and it is present between this here. So these are the transmembrane receptors, and they found on the normally they are present on the leukocytes, and they are responsible for the firm adhesion. Like we know that these are the blood vessels, and we know that whenever they move, they will form the like firm adhesion to this blood vessel, so that they will not move to anywhere else, like because they have to reach to the particular distinct site, right? So these integrin here first down regulation happens, and after that up regulation of this integrin will happen so that they can move, but not that much, and they'll attach to these blood vessels. So they help in the firm adhesion to these blood vessels, and after that they allow also this integrin also allow the immune cells so that they can exit the bloodstream and enter the infected tissue. So these are the mainly cell adhesion molecules: mucin, selectin, and integrin. So moving to the next question, the correct order by which this neutrophil are recruited to the target site is, like, what are the order this neutrophil follow so that it will recruit to the target site? Option A is rolling, and then adhesion, activation, and after that is transendothelial migration. Next is first transendothelial migration happens, then adhesion, after that activation and rolling. First rolling will happen and then activation, adhesion, and the transendothelial migration. And next is like first adhesion, activation, and then transendothelial migration, and the last is rolling. So anyone know? Like,
Option C, ma'am.
okay, okay, so one of you are saying option C. You have a 2 minutes time. You can think like how these neutrophils are recruited to this target site. Anyone?
For us, option A.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, let's see the right answer. So option C is the right answer. Um, so I think you are confused between the adhesion and activation. So first the rolling will happen, and the second is activation, and third is adhesion, and after that this migration. So these are the mainly step for this. How this neutrophil, like, let's see about like one by one what is this steps are and how they play a role. So when there is an infection or this injury is there, this neutrophil, which is a kind of white blood cells, and you guys only told me that it is a kind of white blood cells which are multi lobed structures, and they are recruited from the bloodstream to the affected tissue, because we know that neutrophils are the first cells which will come to the site of infection or injury. Whenever there is an infection or injury, these are the first immune cells which come to that site, right? So how this happen is, first step is neutrophils slow down and roll along this blood vessel. Here we can see that. So these neutrophils come slowly and they'll roll down through this blood vessels. That step we called it is rolling, right? And here this selectin and mucins play a role. The weak interaction, because we know that these are the ligand for the mucin, right? Mucin are the ligand for this selectin ligand. So here the interaction between this mucin and this selectin happens, and they help in this slow down and rolling of this neutrophil, right? Next is activation. Here what happen is these chemokine release at the infection site. They bind to the receptor of this neutrophil. So the chemokine which is released, they bind to the receptor of this neutrophils, and these will activate this neutrophil, so that they, and also they prepare this neutrophil for the strong binding. So first rolling so that they can move along the blood vessels and they can reach to the infection site, right? And to reach that infection site, the next step is activation also play a role, in which what they do is, we know that at the infection site they release some chemicals so that this signal activates this neutrophil, and they prepare this neutrophil for the stronger binding. And the next step is adhesion. Now this activated neutrophil, they express this integrin, which is a CAM molecules in their active form, and these integrin bind to the ICAM, which is a adhesion molecule receptor. Integrin, these integrin binds to this ligands on the endothelial wall, this ICAM, and then they stop the rolling, because if they'll roll, they will not attach, like there will be no attachment of this neutrophil to the vessel wall, and we want this attachment is there so that they can reach to the infection site, right? So for that, these rolling have to be like should be stopped, right? So that's why this third step, adhesion, when there is an expression of this integrin, this will stop the rolling, and they'll firmly attachment of this neutrophil to the vessel wall. And the last step is transendothelial migration, and also we called it as diapedesis, in which this neutrophil, here we can see that it squeeze themselves, and here we can see that it moving like outside this blood vessel, right? So here the neutrophils squeeze between the endothelial cells. So that's why we call it as trans endothelial migration, because between these two endothelial cells, these neutrophil will come and squeeze themselves, and they'll move right here from of the blood vessel, and they'll enter the tissue so that they can reach the site of infection or inflammation, and also we call it as diabetes. So the first step is rolling, where they move and roll along the blood vessels, because see, they can't move, like in the first step they can't go and squeeze and can't move to the site of infection, because these three steps are important before this transendothelial migration, right? The first step, this rolling, so that they can move. Here the weak interaction between the selectin and mucin happen. After that, activation is also important, so they, so that this neutrophil, they prepare themselves for the strong binding. And here the role of chemokines, that these signals released at the infection site, and the, so that they can bind to the neutrophils and activate the neutrophils. After that, there is a firm binding, and we called it as adhesion. Here the integrin play a role. These activated neutrophil, they express the integrin in their active form, and these integrin will bind to the endothelial wall, so that these will attach, and after that they will do the diapedesis process, right? First they have to bind firmly, right, to this ICAM molecules, and after that they'll start this diapedesis, that is they'll move toward the site of infection or inflammation. Moving to the next question, the migration of neutrophils by crossing this HAV blood vessels is known as, option A is extravasation, option B is endocytosis, option C is exocytosis, and option D is phagocytosis.
Ma'am, option A.
Okay. Anyone?
Option A.
Okay. So two of you are saying option A. Anyone else want to answer for this question? Okay. So let's see. So you people are right. Extravasation is the right answer. And we know that extravasation is the process by which this neutrophil move out of this bloodstream, and they'll reach to the infection site. As we mentioned earlier. So this is the extravasation step. Here this neutrophil will move out from this two endothelial cells and they'll reach to this site of infection. So we call this process as extravasation. So how this happen, we already see is neutrophils travel in the blood, and when they detect the signal of this infection, they exit the bloodstream. How they exit the bloodstream? By crossing this blood vessels. And normally where this happen is, this process where this happen is, they happen mainly at the HEV sites, which is, what is this HEV? This is high endothelial venules. So these happen mainly at this high endothelial venules where there is a space between this two endothelial cells, and here the high word is there where there is a, like they find that there is a more space between these two endothelial cells. At this HEV, this will happen, and these movement we called it as extravasation. Also, the diapedesis, also this transendothelial migration, right? So that they can reach to the site of infection or injury. How this happen is, like little bit brief, like as we already mentioned, the three-step rolling, tight binding, and this diabetes, right? We know that how it happen is in case of neutrophils. Here, like in this diagram, it beautifully explained. Here this is the low affinity integrin molecule, and these are the modified glycoprotein. We know that mucin and selectin, right? So here this is the selectin and this is the mucin, right? This selectin will present on this endothelial cells, right? And these mucin will present on this neutrophil. So the first step during the rolling, because these neutrophil present here, right? And this is the blood vessel lumen, and here is the infection. So this is the lymphatic system, because we know that these immune cells are present in the lymphatic and these are the blood. Here the infection will come, right? Macrophage, they can attack, but these neutrophil have to reach to this interstitium fluid, right? So how it happen is, so these first step is the rolling, and these rolling happens, and whenever they find this selectin, these selectin will binds with this mucin molecule, right? And once they bind, what happen is, now this high affinity integrin is there. The first step happens, rolling, and now they will convert into the activation, because these chemokines also, because this macrophage, here also, like it will not happen like that. Here also some other thing which plays a role is activation of this neutrophil. How it happen also, these microbes are there, right? And we know that these microbes will come into this macrophage molecules, and these macrophage, they release these cytokines, right? When they release this cytokine after the after this infection with the microbe, after they engulf these microbes, they release some cytokines, and the cytokine is this tumor necrosis factor and interleukin 1. They'll come and bind to this endothelial cells, and then they express this E-selectin and P-selectin. Once they express this, these will bind to the mucin, and then they convert this neutrophil into the activated neutrophil cells, right? After that, these high affinity state integrin will be there. They express and they come to the next step. Here, this ICAM molecule bind with this integrin molecule. The second step, we called it as tight binding, because it's not a very tight binding. This tight binding, we know that adhesion molecule integrin was also there. Normally, the attachment of any cells to the surface, these integrins play a very important role. So once this high affinity integrin bind to this ICAM molecule, now these HEV is there. Where this HEV, we know that this is the high endothelial venules, right? Here the space is there. So here what they do is, these two endothelial cells, they these neutrophil also squeeze themselves. Also, these PKM, they lose this endothelial, like between these two endothelial cells. Now we can see that there is a more space, right? And also these neutrophil also play a role. They also squeeze themselves so that they can move to this site of infection, and they can start acting on this microbes, and they can now we can see that these reach to the site of infection and they start engulfing this microbe and removing this, right? Like how this neutrophil play a role and how this engulf the pathogen. So this is the like overall diagram, like how the mechanism play behind, like how this neutrophil act, right? So the next question is, the CD8 positive T cell interacts with, option A is MHC class 2 molecule, option B is MHC class 1 molecule, option C is B7 molecules, and option D is CD28 molecules. Anyone?
Option B.
Okay,
Option B, ma'am.
okay. So two of you are saying option B.
Ma'am, option B.
Okay. Anyone else?
Ma'am, option B.
Okay, so all of you are saying option B. Okay, I know you people know about this MHC class 2 molecule and MHC class 1, I'm sure. So, what is this B7 molecules? Have you heard about this B7 molecules? Anyone knows?
No, ma'am.
It is co-stimulatory molecules that is found on antigen presenting cells like dendritic cells like macrophage and B cells.
Yeah, right, right. You are right. Very good. So these B7 molecules, normally what they do is they interact with the T cells receptors. And we know that on the T cells, what are the receptors? CD28, CTLA4, right? So these B7 molecules, they interact with this CD28 and CTLA4, and CD28 and CTLA4, these two molecules are the like opposite function. CD28 normally what they do is these are the co-stimulatory molecule. They activate these T cells, right? But CTLA4, when they binds with this during the co-stimulation process, they inhibit their interaction. So no further activation of these T cells, no further no further immune system activation. So they have like this two opposite function, right? So you guys are right that MHC class 1 molecules is the right answer for this. What is this CD8 positive T cells? We already discussed. These are the cytotoxic T cells. We know that T cells are mainly divided into the two types. One is CD4, another one is CD8. Depending upon the receptors present, they named as CD4, that is cluster of differentiation 4, and the cluster of differentiation 8. Right? And normally these CD8 cells, also called as cytotoxic T cells, their main function is to recognize and kill the infected or abnormal cells. Normally, these CD8 positive T cells, they play a very important role during the virus infected cells. We know that MHC class 1 molecules present on the normal cells only. On the APCs, these two molecules are present. So why they are interacting with the MHC class 1? They are interacting with the virus infected cells, because whenever there is a virus infected cells, they show their MHC class 1 molecule, and even cancer cells also have. So that's why these CD positive T cells, they have a very unique ability to bind with this MHC class 1 molecule, and normally they act as on the virus infected cells and the cancer cells, also on the transplanted if there is a transplantation of any tissues, there also these cytotoxic T cells play a role. How they play a role? We know that all the nucleated cells, except the RBCs, they express this MHC1 molecule. When a cell is infected by the virus, these also present the fragment of virus on their MHC class 1 molecule, because we know that virus infect the normal cells only, right? And they have this MHC class 1 molecule. But in case of other infection, when is there is a bacteria infection, there is a fungi infection, or any other infection other than this viral, cancer, or transplanted, there this MHC class 2 express the antigen, right? And here we are saying this MHC class 1. Why? Because we know that this virus infect the host only. They replicate inside the host, and they take the host machinery, right? They are taking the advantage. So that's why not the normal cell will finish and will kill those kind of infection. Another kind of special cells will come, and we called it as cytotoxic T cells. They recognize this MHC class 1 and antigen complexes using their TCR, and if the antigen is foreign or abnormal, the CD8 positive T cell activates and kill the infected cells. So a diagram, basically this is a typical diagram how the CD4 and CD8 positive cells plays a role, so that you people can understand. Here we can see that this is the APCs. Here the MHC2 molecule will come if there is a bacterial pathogen, bacterial infection, if there is a fungal infection, or any other infection. So here this MHC2 interact with the TCR, and they'll convert into the mature T cells. Here the CD4 plays a role, and this will convert into the T helper 1 or T helper 2. But in case of viral and all, this MHC1 express this antigen, and uh, they'll convert this immature CD positive T cells into the mature cytotoxic T cells. So this is the viral infected cell. This is the normal cells only. So through the MHC1, these CD positive 8 cells plays a role, and they produce this cytokines, and so that they can lyse these cells. Once they found that this is the infected cells, they start releasing this cytokine. If it's a normal cell, they will not release the cytokines. Once they found that it is an infected cell, they release this cytokine, they bind with the infected cells, and this lyse these cells, right? In this way they play the role. So the last question is, the double positive T cell expressing both CD4 and CD8 co-receptors are selected by: option A is thymic epithelial cells, option B is endothelial cells, option C is lymphoid endothelial cells, and option D is none of the above. Anyone?
Ma'am, option A.
Okay.
Option A, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else?
Option A, ma'am.
Okay. Three of you are saying option A is the right answer. So you guys are right. Very good. So thymic epithelial cells. So let's see the double positive T cells. What are these double positive T cells? These are the immature T cells which is present in the thymus. Why immature? Because they express both CD4 as well as this CD8 co-receptors, right? So these stage occur during the T cell development in the thymus before the because they don't commit. Why? Either they see, this is a naive cells, right? So that's why they are positive for both CD4 and CD8, because they don't know whether they have to convert themselves into the CD4 or CD8, right? Before their commitment, they are the double positive T cells. So what happen in the thymus is this positive selection, and these normally happen in the cortex. So these thymic epithelial cells, they present the self MHC molecule, both class 1 and class 2. They have both self MHC molecule. T cells which bind very weakly but correctly to the self MHC or self peptide, they are allowed to survive. They ensure because that T cell can recognize the self MHC, which is a requirement also, depending upon whether they bind to the MHC class 1 or class 2, they'll become the CD8 and CD4. If they are efficiently bind to the MHC class 1, they'll convert into the CD8, and if they'll bind with MHC class 2, they'll convert into the CD4. Right? So that's all about the today's class. Any doubt? Okay, one of you were asking in between the lecture key, here was some doubt. Now you can ask.